right, good morning, everybody. If we could grab our seats, please, I would appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you all very much. Boy, I don't know about you, but I hated to pull the plug on a great panel conversation. We have so many other areas to engage and discuss also. And as you think about the conversation, I'm struck by the Q&A that went back and forth with our panelists just a moment ago, and I'm sure all of you are thinking through what struck you. For me, it's the reality of best practices that are occurring in communities throughout Berrien County in setting the stage for opportunities for growth. I think the one thing that I had learned over my time in serving all of you and now in serving in this capacity then also is that when we have an opportunity to tell a story and to provide a real impactful understanding of how development impacts the developer, impacts the owner, impacts the local municipality and the elected official who has pressures coming from all sides to a particular topic, when you can humanize a particular issue that when on paper sounds very bureaucratic, right? The bureaucratic word was used often. It gives an opportunity to put a face with growth and development. And I want to highlight one other thing that may not have been noticed by everybody in the room. We spent some time at this podium over the last couple of years with the help of many in this room in identifying some of the barriers to growth that exist because of statutory and constitutional requirements. It wasn't specifically mentioned, but I want to highlight this. And we've highlighted it in this particular organization cooperatively together, is the interaction of Headley, the constitutional amendment that is called Headley, and Proposal A, which funds schools and municipalities through property tax structure that we have today. That was the 1994 vote of the people. Those two interactions was alluded to several times by the panelists. Rick Huff from the city of Niles in particular said, if we're not growing, we're dying. I think that was the quote, exactly. If we're not growing, we're dying. And that has everything to do with setting the stage for there to be an opportunity for development and growth that allows us to get past some of the constitutional and statutory hindrances that inhibit growth in our local municipalities. So being creative as municipalities and elected leaders gives us that opportunity to see that growth. So lots of interconnected pieces in when we talk about housing. However, as we think about catalysts for the county as a whole, we think about the things that make our region, our county attractive. We know that the water and harbor and waterfront is an important part of that equation. This is one component of many, right? So when we say we're talking about the Twin Cities and St. Joseph, City of Benton Harbor, and St. Joseph Charter Township coming together in an authority, I'm going to refer to it and talk about it after Chris speaks in a moment. That is just one of those examples of what can we do collectively, cooperating together for the benefit of all. And so we're going to remember some of the things that are happening. We're going to talk about some of the things that are already happening in the harbor here. Take a moment to think, though, when you see these slides, that this is exactly what Rick is looking for, is the kind of cooperation that increases development and growth along the river in Niles, with Niles Township. It's the same kind of growth that we're looking to see in other municipalities, such as Hager with the water trails. The same kind of growth we're looking to see in Harbor Country, of which many of you from Harbor Country here in Darwin, the city manager from New Buffalo, just explained the challenges that they have. While we're going to talk about the harbor in St. Joseph and Benton Harbor, this is a catalyst for the region, and we want to make sure we give Chris a chance to talk about that. So please help me welcome Chris Cook for Catalyzing Waterfront. The standard forward, and you're good. All right, right button.
I'm not sure who that youngster is up there, but here I am. So I do want to talk about a really cool project that we're undertaking. We've been working with Cornerstone Alliance and a number of other folks to catalyze the waterfront in both Benton Harbor and then again as an aspiration for the rest of the communities. So I guess first of all, the question would be, why would we look to activate the waterfront? Well, a number of reasons. You know, it's our greatest asset. We know that the activities involved in whether it's trails or a park plaza like this lead to increased positive health growth and then economic impact. Certainly something like this we feel will attract residents, new businesses. It'll be a tremendous amenity for those that are living at the new, wonderful Emma Jean Hall apartments. But it is specifically not just for them. It is for the entire community to enjoy. And I think that's been one of our primary missions, is to make sure that this is for everyone. And then again, an inspiration for future investment elsewhere. Uh-oh. Okay, so we looked at executing some of the prior community visions and master plans. So taken right from the 2011 City of Benton Harbor Master Plan was this quote, that the city will work to maximize the benefit of the rivers as public amenities by improving public access to the waterfront and providing public open space adjacent to waterways. So we felt after 13 years it was about time to do that. And so here we go. And then here is back to the 2016 Harbor Vision Plan, a view of the specific area that we're going to talk about today with the ship canal. And you can see that there's a modest plan on the, what I will call for here, left side of the ship canal. Ours is going to be much more dramatic than that, which you'll see in a moment. But we're hoping that this can catalyze perhaps those other corners into doing something similar to what's drawn there. So again, our guiding principles were and are to make sure this is for everyone. There's opportunities for both active and passive recreation, that it will be world-class in its design and the use of the products and furniture that will be part of the project. Also access for local entrepreneurs, people like food trucks, local artists, any sort of folks that might want to perform here. So it's going to be this active open space, again, open for everyone. And then again, a future catalyst. I have to hold that thing longer than I thought I did. So we looked at some benchmarking, or what I would call inspiration, from some other projects throughout the world. First, we looked at Milwaukee. They're doing some really great things along their waterfront. Brooklyn, New York as well. You can see some of those photos there. And then even in New Zealand and Christchurch, you can see how in these pictures there's activity around the water, there's access to the water, there's certainly places to sit and view the water as well. And then this one's fairly simple. It's in France, but has grassy green space that you can either sit in a harder chair or lay down a blanket on the grass, certainly walk along the path, places to rest, that sort of stuff. And then also in Germany, the lower left picture inspired us a lot, of course up in the upper left as well, where we have some terraced seating and providing various opportunities for viewing and seeing what's going on in the ship canal there. Again, back in my motherland, the Netherlands, a country that's almost entirely surrounded by water. They know how to bring access to the waterfront. And there's even a ship in the one picture there too. So, our plan is, as you can see here, this is an aerial view. The Emma Jean Hall apartments are on the right, and the ship canal is on the left, and our park space is in between. You can see it's very wooded, shady, room for those food trucks there. There's some grassy space. It's active, it's passive. And so we're looking forward to bringing that to fruition. Here's another view that shows more of the grassy space, some fire pits, and again, real active open space. Aerial view, which shows a number of the elements that are part of the project. So kind of taking them in order here. Number one's a food truck plaza that's kind of central to the site. This Bosque Plaza, or a wooded space to enjoy some shade from the heat, some synthetic turf, and some natural grass turf, and then even some place for a dog run. The fire pits, kayak launch, a spot for the water taxi to dock, and then some parking. Lots of talk in the last group about parking. Clearly, not enough parking, we hope, for a site of this size. We've got 6 spaces, but there is plenty of adjacent parking, and so we plan on allowing folks to park there and just short walk over, less than Walmart. And then opportunities for sculpture and artists and those sort of things as well. Just a couple pictures coming up here from kind of an eye level, and looking at how active and shaded again that we expect this to be. Another view that shows some small boats out on the ship canal with lots of folks engaging in the park space. And then another view kind of looking back, you can see some folks doing some exercising, walking, even hugging a little bit. I don't know about that, but looks like a great spot. And then we really want to use locally produced materials and contractors. These particular photos are our vision for what some of the furniture would look like, and it's from Landscape Forms. They're in Kalamazoo, so they're as local as it gets with this sort of equipment. They really do high-end, good stuff, and so we're looking to utilize their palette of materials here. And then just want to acknowledge the financial support and technical support that we've received from the MEDC. They have put $1 million into this $2 million project. Of course, the Whirlpool Foundation's been a great supporter of this project. The Community Development Department at the county is handling the grant requirements. And then the City of Benton Harbor just last week approved a contribution to the project. And then we'll continue to work with them on site plan review and going to the Planning Commission and that sort of stuff. So there's a quick look at our project that's coming. By the way, we do expect this to be started, take bids in the summer, July, and then construction there shortly thereafter, completion for use in the spring of 2025. Any questions? Yes, Jeff.
Vision, another piece of that coming through. Once it's built, who is responsible for the ongoing maintenance and control and all that kind of good stuff?
Great question. So this is property that's owned by Harbor Shores. So we will retain ownership of the property, but we will designate specifically that it is for public use, and then we will maintain it. Harbor Shores will maintain it. Any other questions? Well, while I have the pulpit, I might just add that lots of talk with the last group about housing. Harbor Shores is also in the housing development business, and we have designs in various stages in both Benton Charter Township, City of Benton Harbor, and City of St. Joseph for right now 400 units, varying price points, various sizes. We need to work with the communities on those ordinance issues of allowing townhomes and, different types of product in order to achieve that. And we're starting those processes. We hope to have a lot more to share with you maybe at the next forum. But at this point, it's too early for prime time, but we have a lot going on. 32 units under construction right now in Harbor Village, and so trying to do our part with the whole housing needs as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate it. That particular aspiration of what you can do to activate a portion of the waterfront, I have to ask this question of you folks right now. Did anybody watch any of the draft last night? I'm sorry, what city was the draft in for the National Football League? The D. It was in the D. If you watch again tonight, which I encourage you to do, there was several mentions, and by the way, we have a huge friend in somebody like Mike Tirico who lives in the area, right? I mean, he's an amazing host. He'll be hosting the Olympics and for NBC Sports, etc. But Tirico mentioned not once but twice, and you'll hear it again tonight, the waterfront in Detroit. Now, when was the last time anybody said, hey, let's all go to the waterfront in Detroit? What they have done on the waterfront in Detroit has been a catalyst for change in such an amazing way. That's the vision of what Strategic Leadership Council took on in 2016 and 17. There are folks in this room who led that charge. Peter Kolobus was one of those. He's in the room, of course, right now. By the way, I don't know if you knew this, he's from the great state of Hager. Because of the recognition that it is a catalyst for growth and opportunity. City of Benton Harbor, City of St. Joseph, and the Charter Township of St. Joseph are the three that have portions of this particular asset that is being activated, at least in this particular park, right? But imagine what the Detroit area has done to catalyze their riverfront and what we can do along all of Riverview Drive cooperatively and together. One of the ways to accomplish that has been, and Brian just said had to step out for a minute as county administrator, one of the ways for us to catalyze that and to make that happen is for the three municipalities to come together in an authority. All three municipalities have that documentation in their hands today. All three have agreed to appoint people to that particular authority to begin the process of cooperation and coordination in the waterfront area. You'll recall that it looks like this. This isn't as pretty as Chris is rendering, so thank you, Chris. But this gives you a sense, again, of what we've talked about many times from this podium. I would encourage each of us and our elected officials and appointed officials to move quickly towards establishing that authority. It is as simple as the need for dredging, and it is as aggressive and as aspirational as the need for complete redevelopment in such a way that it lifts all boats. Darwin Watson said it right. Development and growth lifts all boats. If it's good for Bridgman, it's good for Niles. If it's good for Niles, it's good for Hager. If it's good for Hager, it's good for Watervliet. Folks who come to our community, they're not asking the question whether or not my own municipality, they're looking for someplace to live, to work, to play, to grow, to retire. We need that kind of catalyst. This is all that next steps that we've talked about in the past. Encourage our local municipalities to finalize this authority so that we can begin the process of redevelopment in such a way that the harbor can be that catalyst. And in a few years, we look at it and say, do you remember when we just didn't use the waterfront like we could? Look what it is today, similar to what we see in Detroit. Nobody would have ever thought that on national TV, the National Football League would be touting how incredible the redevelopment is in Detroit. That's us, and that's where we're heading. We know what this looks like. It was many partners at the table envisioning what it may look like. You saw a few slides from Chris. These are just reminders of what we might be able to do together in the waterfront, what it may look like. Are there hurdles? Sure. Are there challenges? Yes. Are there particular interests and entities who look at this and say, well, wait a second, isn't that where we store all of our salt and our aggregate? Well, yes, it is today. And that may be an opportunity for us in the future as we continue to develop and grow to have those sorts of conversations. But imagine engaging as a set of interdependent communities in an authority to make that happen. Is this what it's going to look like? We know it won't look exactly like this, but we have to dream. And one of the organizations that's doing a great deal of work throughout the Berrien County region is Cornerstone Alliance. So with some updates from Rob, please welcome Rob Cleveland from Cornerstone Alliance.
Apparently, old picture day, high school picture day for Chris Cook and I, apparently. So, kudos, John, on the Harbor Authority. That's exciting news, and just strictly from a development standpoint, if we can push, nudge, influence, whatever the politically correct word is, that would pay huge dividends for our community. So let's get that Harbor Authority done. All right, thank you, Susan. So, listen, appreciate the opportunity to be here. I'm going to talk to you about some really boring stuff. I'm going to talk about dirt. So, it's exciting for Cornerstone, and it has a potential to transform the community in general, but we're going to talk a little bit about dirt today. So let's see if I got the right direction. Left, right? There we go. Ultimately, so setting aside Cornerstone's vision, ultimately our main job is to bring new jobs and new investment to the community. But what we're doing, the people that work at Cornerstone, our job is to mitigate risk and eliminate barriers. And that's ultimately what we're doing with businesses and communities. And we've been fortunate here recently to engage with the MEDC on a program they call SSRP, and that's an acronym for Strategic Site Readiness Program. And the state of Michigan, truthfully at this point, I'm sure most of you with municipalities will understand, I can't keep track of where this money's coming from. It's ARPA money, it's federal money, it's state money. It's all flowing fast and furious. And so this money came from the MEDC, and ultimately it's designed to improve sites in the state of Michigan. Michigan is way behind in terms of having strategic sites that are ready for development, way behind. And this program, though, is being utilized and in most cases, and I certainly think here, effectively, to get us back up to speed in the competition to bring new business. So the state put out 2 different competitive grants. We applied for both, and we have been awarded over $4.3 million that'll be invested here in Berrien County. The first grant in the fall of last year was a regional partnership that we engaged with Market Van Buren. Market Van Buren represents Van Buren and Cass County, so our regional application was our 3-county area. And that was really important because for the last 18 months or so, there has been a real push by people in Kalamazoo to centralize economic and community development services because they believe they have a better understanding than you do on what needs to happen in our community. And so we fought that and continue to do so because we don't think that's the right idea. So we partnered with the folks at Market Van Buren and put together a 3-county application. That application awarded us over $700,000, and that's focused on strategic site readiness. And I listed here a few of the things we're doing, the eligible activities, site prep, improvement, infrastructure improvements, really more environmental and study impact. So phase 1 environmentals to understand the contamination of the sites, geotech studies to understand what can be built on those sites. And what we've done is allocate those really in 2 different buckets. And I'll talk about those buckets in a second here. But the main focus, obviously, SSRP, strategic site. Now, the state has somewhat defined what a strategic site is, but they've also left that up to us to define locally what we think a strategic site is. So the first award, $700,000, our partnership, we did a Berrien County industrial property assessment. We utilized Marsh to do that study. We've seen the final draft here recently. We do those studies often. I think the previous one we did was about 7 years ago, and it's important to update those and understand the possible industrial sites in the community. So we did that for the 3-county region, and we're going to then take those, and we've allocated essentially 2 different pots of money, working with Marsh and Whiteman, and we're going to focus on one specific area near here, and then also other sites throughout the county. Second award, $3.6 million. So the second pot was very competitive. There was no regional allocation there. And the state said, look, ultimately we want to get to 1,000-acre sites. That's the goal. That's going to be really difficult in the state of Michigan because we just have a lot of development, and so finding 1,000 acres is difficult. So if we can't get to 1,000, we'd like to get to 500. If we can't get to 500, we'd like to get to 250, but we need large sites. So the second allocation was $1 million. Cornerstone applied for a site here in Berrien County that we'll talk about in a minute, and we got $3.6 million out of that site. So the goal at Cornerstone every day is to get more than our fair share, and by getting $3.6 million of the $100 million strictly on a population basis, we were able to bring more than our fair share to Berrien County. So the main sites I want to talk about, got a map up here. Everything you can see there in red is what we're going to talk about and what we refer to as the Lake Michigan Industrial Park. So if we were all to go to the roof today, we could stand and see the area we're talking about. It's just a little bit south and east of here. And really leveraging the work that Al and John did to get 31 extended, right? We've all talked about the impact, the economic impact that'll have on our community. And so we're focusing on right here on the area of Napier and 31. So the Lake Michigan Industrial Park, this is a site, the first site here is at the intersection of Meadowbrook and Yore. The northwest corner there is a Spectrum office. Piro Family Farms is out there, AP is out there. This site is 285 acres. We've spent a dozen years working on this site. AEP has put a lot of money into it. Cornerstone, the community, Avonmarsh and Whiteman and Point Blue and several of our local businesses have been a part of certifying this site. It was the first site that was actually certified in the state of Michigan by McCallum Sweeney. They're an international site selection firm. 285 acres. This is a big site. It's not 1,000. We'd like it to be bigger, but 285 contiguous acres is a lot. Yore Avenue does run right down the middle of it, and unfortunately we probably can't get rid of that road. There are no plans to get rid of that road if you know anybody who lives on it. 285 acres, a lot of places to park, no parking issues here. But we're going to utilize the SSRP funding, the second round of money. We got $3.6 million to relocate the drains. So there are drains running underneath the property here that we're going to work with the drain commissioner and Avonmarsh to reroute the drains in the area. Again, not very visible, not very sexy, but significant in potential development at the site. We also were allocated out of that $3.6 $1 million to redo Yore Avenue. And so I met with the Highway Commission yesterday. We originally had hoped to repave Yore from Napier to Meadowbrook, which is a mile. We do think now we'll be able to get all the way down to Town Line, which is 2 miles of road. So bringing $3.6 million of probably our own tax money back to the community, but investing specifically in this site. So we started with 285 acres. The big piece there from the first allocation was trying to understand how we can expand industrial opportunities in the community. So we went out and we talked to every property owner in this area. And thankfully, there's not too many. But so far, all of these people have signed on to ultimately turn over their property to industrial or commercial development. So we've been able to add with this program on this site, just north of the south portion, and as you can see here, right at Napier and 31 on both sides of the road, 229 acres of future industrial property. We get, 5 years ago, you would get $1 billion project in your lifetime in economic development. The only thing we're seeing now are billion-dollar projects. 4, 5, $10 billion projects, and they all need 200 acres. So we're still getting projects that are 50 acres and 100 jobs and $100 million, and we love those projects. We're still responding to them, but the companies and the projects that are going on now need a ton of acreage. So we started with 285. We've added another 230 acres. We've not announced any of this publicly, but we're doing all the due diligence on this site, on these sites. Phase 1s, geotechs, utility studies, all those kinds of things that prohibit development. We then went to the east side of 31 and worked with a single property owner, George McManus. George owns all of this property here and have now added over another 300 acres. So we have almost 1,000 acres in this specific area that has been committed to future industrial use. There's a lot more work to do. We have to understand the utility capacity. So the utilities, the water and wastewater, run to Napier and Yore. So we would have to extend utilities out here as part of a brownfield TIF plan or something similar, or depending on the size of the investment, the state would get involved in helping us run utilities. But we've been able to utilize these two competitive grants to transform how we're being able to recruit businesses to Berrien County. Industrial, commercial, logistics and warehousing. There's the endless opportunity in what we have to do here now in all these acres. And most importantly, I think our goal is to spend all $4 million with Berrien County companies. We want to keep all of that money here. We think we can do it, but we may have to go outside the community a little bit. But we're going to make sure we spend all the money, at least with Michigan businesses. So bringing that money, we're able to competitively go out and win these dollars for the community, and then we're going to spend all of that money here. I think that's it. So we're excited. We have a ton of, we're going to roll this out publicly here in the next few weeks, and then a full-scale marketing campaign internationally to site consultants, real estate executives, because this will be big news. There's a lot of property here, and we think there's a prime opportunity to recruit some of these bigger companies. So, John, happy to take any questions if there are any. Yes, sir, Al.
Rob, we've seen publicly where there's going to be a data center built out here by the college.
Any comments made about the data center
Okay.
are inappropriate and irresponsible.
My question was, so we don't know when dirt would move on the so-called data center?
Correct.
Okay.
We're actively recruiting data centers, and we're working with Joey Andrews. It's a really intense topic. We are not recruiting an AI data center, so everybody gets scared about AI. We are working to recruit data centers, and I think it's important, Al. So here's a really good example. The data center legislation in Michigan, we're one of the few states that charges sales tax. And so sales tax is 6%. When we go to McDonald's, it's not a big deal, right? There was an announcement yesterday, hopefully some of you saw it, in New Carlisle, Indiana, for an $11 billion data center. Now, to compare direct apples to apples, in Indiana, in New Carlisle, they will pay no sales tax on that $11 billion investment. If they were to locate that data center in New Buffalo, they would pay $660 million in sales tax. So 6% on a $1 billion or an $11 billion project is real money. And so that's what we're working to do. And so we would be eliminating sales tax. We would not be eliminating property tax. That's another thing that we've been trying to get the truth out about. So they'd be paying enormous amounts of property taxes and LMC and fire and safety and all these things. So they're huge users, but the speculation of the comments about the data centers are inappropriate at this point.
Rob, you mentioned about parking not being a problem. We know workforce is, and I know transportation is sometimes an issue for workforce. So are you considering how public transit may make this a more appealing area for people to build?
Yeah, that's a great question. So from a workforce standpoint, it's why we're focused. It's the developer who has some of the property optioned is actively pursuing data centers because they don't require a lot of people. And so that's a thing. That's an important aspect. They're very, they don't use a lot of resources, and they don't require a lot of people, and they have huge investment. So I'm not saying we're out recruiting companies that don't employ a lot of people, but we don't have a lot of people. So it's a challenge. The other thing we're always doing is looking to, these billion-dollar companies and billion-dollar projects, they usually pay above the median county wage. And the state of Michigan now, in a lot of these incentives, they're requiring 120% of the median county wage. So they're going to be able to pay more to our existing people, which is obviously the path we want to follow. We want our people making more money. So that's that first aspect. And as far as transportation, I'm going to punt to John Eaglehoff. Cornerstone is not the transportation agency, and we try specific. That's not something we have expertise in. So we'll have to help John and his group figure out the public transportation. How about that for diverting?
Any other questions?
If you know anybody else in that area that's not in the purple that would be interested in selling property, have them call us.
Thank you, Rob. Big
All
hand
right.
for Rob, please.
Thank you.
All right, we're moving on to if we're attracting talent, we have housing, we have transportation, we have all these things happening. Do we have labor in the right place to be able to grow? And we've got lots of great things happening in that arena. So we'll throw it to Dr. Hamill.
Thank you, John. I have figured out what you're doing with pictures here. If you've noticed, this is the strategy. Now, this is a secret, but this is the strategy. John wants us to remember how long we've been at this. Should we kind of hurry up and get the job done? I think that's the strategy. I think I'm on to you. I was born and raised in Berrien County, and I cannot for the life of me figure out why everybody in the world, or at least everybody within 1,000 miles, doesn't want to live right here. I mean, that doesn't make any sense to me, but what has been so inspiring to me is all of the efforts to make this a place that literally gives our friends and neighbors around no excuse not to want to live right here. I mean, these are really exciting plans, and I'm just grateful to be part of them. So I want to talk a little bit about talent, and if in your organization there are no issues with talent, if you have 20 applications for every job, if you can hire them within 2 days, if they stay there for their entire life, if they're happy with their paychecks, you can just close your eyes, tip your head back, and just take a nap for what we're going to say next. But that is not the case at the organization I work at. And we are struggling with attracting talent. And I want to talk, no slides here, but I want to talk just a minute what we're thinking about and what we're doing with the entry-level jobs. It's still easier for us to recruit a physician or a high-wage job, but the entry-level jobs is something that is really challenging for us. And we're working on a couple strategies to grow the talent pipeline and to grow the internal talent at the same time. And we're doing that in a number of ways. The talent pipeline, you all know the issues. There are barriers. We need soft skills. We need core competencies for those individuals. And we're partnering with folks like Connexus and the colleges to try to accomplish those things, to grow that pipeline, to make sure that the folks are really ready for that first job. I don't know about in your organization. Our organization, we lose about half of the people that come to those more entry-level jobs by the end of the year, nearly half, sometimes less. There are some organizations that hire that more entry-level labor and have turnover rates of 150 or 200% a year. So it's clearly something, if we're going to improve the health and well-being, the wealth and well-being as well of our friends and neighbors, we have to get them ready for those jobs. And that is falling on us as an employer. I'm sure that's falling on you as an employer. So we're trying to reach out and accomplish those things. I don't have time to share them all, but there are some exciting things afoot, and I will maybe in subsequent sessions share a little of that. We're also doing things to grow our own talent, and this is really starting to pay off. We have begun about 10 or 11 different cohorts aiming for different jobs to grow our own talent into those jobs. And there's a couple of things we're learning about that. One is you have to both pay for the education, clearly. And here's something that's new for us that you may have been doing forever and ever. We're also paying for all the lost wages. We have found, I can remember this story well. I had 2 med techs coming from our emergency room and saying, we are loyal, we're all about customer service, we've been here for a number of years, we are nurse techs and we'd like to become nurses. These folks are both single parents. And there's no way for us to get from here to there. We can't go to school and cut our hours worked in half or more so we can pass those courses, so we can get that nurse degree and come back and be a nurse here. And, you know, look at, well, that's, boy, duh, that's absolutely right. How would you expect somebody to do that? You know, when we first heard this conversation, we had mostly enough nurses, and it wasn't costing us a boatload of money to recruit nurses. But we did a trial with them and started a program and said, let's see if we can figure out a way economically to do that. You know, today's environment, bonuses for nurses are $25,000, $30,000 to start. You know, the wages have gone up and up everywhere in the country. When you have an open position, you're filling with a traveler, it might cost you not $40 an hour, it might cost you $180 an hour. You know, so all of a sudden it makes a lot of economic sense to invest in your own talent pool. And we're doing that to med tech programs, to respiratory therapy programs, to nurses, to LPN, RN, 2-year, 4-year. And those cohorts are filling from internal talent. And here's something else that's really exciting about it for us, is the diversity among that group is the highest we have ever seen. You know, we are aiming to make sure our workforce at least represents the diversity across our community. And in some areas, we're doing very well at that. If you look at the entry-level jobs, we're doing extremely well at that. But if you start going up a few layers, it starts getting less and less diverse. And so one of our commitments is to try to build that diversity from within our own talent pool. And what I call as a graduation rate. If I'm getting somebody in environmental services or nutritional services and they're at $20 an hour, $22 an hour, how do we educate them and pay to help educate them and then move them into a position that they're at $35 an hour or $40 an hour? That is one of the things we're committed to try to do. And when we look at the cohorts, we have nearly 200 now in various cohorts. The diversity in that is not 3 or 4 or 5% like it is across the state of Michigan in the nursing profession. It is 20, 25, 30%, and in some of those cohorts, 60 or 70%. So it really seems to be paying off, looking at our own internal talent. I had a conversation a few years ago with somebody that had been in our environmental services, one of the nicest gentlemen you'll ever meet. He's been there 45 years. You know, what's wrong with us that we can't identify? And this could have been, I believe, an absolutely fantastic leader. What's wrong with us for not identifying that 30 years ago? For saying, what can we do to help you get a little additional education, a little additional experience? How can we help? I see him with his arm around new employees, helping them succeed, encourage them to show up and to work and to be diligent, and gives us great ideas on how we can retain young talent. We have folks like that, I believe, all through our organizations that literally you have to nudge them and encourage them and inspire them into a higher level of both income and responsibility. And I think we're having some success with that. One of the things I'd like to do as part of our leadership council, if others seem to support this down the road, is put some of our HR professionals together, along with our colleges and others that may be interested, to say, let's bring a little collaborative together and learn from each other on what's working. We, I believe, have to improve the work environment for our friends and neighbors if we're going to succeed in this community, and if we're going to attract others into our neighborhood to say, we want these jobs, we want this work experience. You've looked at the data. You know, our county, in fact, is getting a little smaller, getting a little older, getting less educated over time, or as compared with others. And that's something we just utterly have to combat. And I think, and I've heard some really incredible growth imperatives today, related to housing, related to the harbor, related to how cities and municipalities can work together, and that's really inspiring. But I think we can do more, I think, together related to the talent pipeline. And I'm certainly committed to be part of it and happy to collaborate with all of you to help learn together. I'm going to pass it on to Arthur Havlicek. We've got, I think, some exciting news, almost breaking news maybe, that he's going to share. And so let's give it up for Arthur.
Well, I was going to say, you managed to find an older photo of me too. That's impressive. Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Hamill. We appreciate your specific leadership and engagement and service to this community. I know that it's well known that your retirement is coming up after 40 stellar years. I think he deserves a round of applause. Thank you. Does anybody hold the title, The Legend of Lakeland? Because that would look good on you. So one of the things I think I personally appreciate about Dr. Hamill's legacy, the legacy that he's continuing to leave, is his work to strengthen that supply of talent, that pipeline. And that concept is something that has brought together several folks, many of whom are in this room, to be able to solve some of that need locally. Just some context. In 2022, I was selected to go through a fellowship program for through the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation. And that program focused largely on talent and workforce development, starting all the way from childcare to post-grad and all the higher degrees and things you need to be able to be successful in the knowledge economy. One of the things that really stood out to me while we were going through that was an emphasis on something called employer-led collaboratives. Employer-led collaboratives, the concept is to be able to shrink that path between educational institutions and the workplaces that they're training these folks to go and be successful at, right? Pretty simple concept. So you take that concept and you couple it with some of the situations we have going on locally in terms of our declining population, aging population, and what you end up with, in my opinion, and I think everyone in this room has pretty much heard me say this before, is we cannot think of our labor situation in terms of a talent pipeline anymore. The word in that I take exception with is pipeline. And the reason I do is because when you think of a pipeline, you think of a faucet. You go to turn the nozzle, you have a steady stream of what you need coming out. That's a pipeline. That's no longer how it's working. And so with some of the education I received through that U.S. Chamber Fellowship, and then some of the work I've been doing with some of the partners in this community, we've been really trying to change the narrative and get folks to think about this in terms of a talent supply chain. Get rid of pipeline, make it a supply chain, because the supply chain, you get what you plan for, right? Think any business in this community, think of the big automotive companies. In order to be able to roll that vehicle off the lot, they are planning for every part, every component. They're doing it years in advance. And we have not really approached, and business has really not approached education this way. And so we wanted to try to bring that concept to Berrien County. While I was going through that fellowship, I was giving presentations on the labor supply chain, including to this group, giving presentations on population loss, having concurrent conversations with Lake Michigan College and Berrien RESA about the need to wrap our arms around this issue. And the solution to this, we think, is what we've called the Berrien Talent Collaborative, which is an employer-led initiative designed to reduce vacancies in our local workforce, right? So one thing that we are exceptional here at is producing high school talent, quality high school talent, thanks in part to all of our high quality, local public education systems. And we end up losing these folks, right? Because they go off to pursue a 4-year degree like many of my peers did, years back. And it's very hard once they leave to get them back. Now, if we are able to connect them with opportunity before they graduate, get them an apprenticeship or a certification, and you can apprentice or provide a certificate for any job these days. It's not just your factory floor things, it's knowledge economy things as well. We have a higher likelihood of keeping them here, of training the talent we have locally and keeping that talent locally. And that's what we all need to do, because what we have is scarcity. And so we have to be more efficient, right, with what we have. So I'm going to play you guys a little video. Apologies for those who have seen it. I'm sure some folks have not. I think it's worth a watch.
have a labor issue. We can solve that problem. Let's solve it together. Berrien RISA, Lake Michigan College, Southwest Michigan Regional Chamber, and the Greater Niles Area Chamber are coming together with local employers to build the Berrien Talent Collaborative.
Finding talent is the #1 issue facing businesses in our region. Guess what? There is a willing and capable workforce in our community right now, just waiting for the opportunity to shine. Who are these future employees? They are today's high school students who are eager to learn, work, and develop our area's economy and their future through registered apprenticeships. This opens the opportunity for post-high school learning and development while still in high school. The Berrien Talent Collaborative offers a system of apprenticeship programs where students receive on-the-job training as part of their curriculum. Students become paid employees, meeting the needs of the businesses while learning industry-driven skills. Students get a head start on their careers, and businesses benefit from the additional support. Through the Berrien Talent Collaborative, students grow from apprentice to full-time employee to homeowner and Berrien County resident. By giving students an opportunity, they can fill Berrien County's talent pipeline with success. The formula is simple: any student, any job, one thriving community.
At Edgewater Automation, we know how important it is to keep a steady pipeline of talented and motivated team members to execute to the standards we and our clients expect. We have a vibrant and challenging culture here. If we can get them in the door, open their eyes to the possibilities, and work together to train them, we know we can launch rewarding careers. We welcome this opportunity to partner in the Berrien Talent Collaborative with the Chamber, the schools, and the college to get the next generation excited about a career in automation.
Lake Michigan College has been a leading provider of apprenticeship training for decades. The Berrien Talent Collaborative strengthens our partnership with our K-12 schools and the local business community. Students crave real-life experience in the workplace, and there are many opportunities in our diverse community. We realize it's about skills and customized training. LMC provides our students and community with the most cost-effective training to build a pathway for lifelong success. We have made a donation of the Niles campus to put these efforts on a fast track, and we look forward to more collaboration and more partnerships in the future.
Students deserve a career they love without going into debt, and employers deserve talented graduates who have the skills and drive to meet their company's needs. Through the Berrien Talent Collaborative, both are possible. By bridging the gap between business and education, we can help any student, any profession, any business, and any industry thrive. Find your talent, build your workforce. Visit berrientalent.org. So there are a ton of things that are cool about this collaborative we put together, and perhaps the coolest thing, in my opinion, is that it is the first county-wide youth apprenticeship program in the state, which I think is something to be very proud of. Another thing that is cool is really that we were able to do this by bringing partners together and aligning resources more effectively. So this did not take any additional grants, any additional dollars. We basically put our heads together, the college, RISA, the chambers, to figure out how to create a model that was more efficient, that worked better, and that utilized existing assets more effectively, including that donation of the Niles campus, which is now going to be called the Bertrand Innovation Center. So think about that. Instead of trying to run a county-wide millage, to be able to have a high-tech tech center like we're seeing in other places, we now essentially have a North County Tech Center here and a South County Tech Center down there, which increases access to kids no matter where they live in our community. So the governance of this is, as mentioned, Lake Michigan College, Berrien RISA, our Southwest Michigan Regional Chamber, and the Niles, Greater Niles Chamber of Commerce. There's a committee of partners that includes Dr. Kabatsky, president of LMC, Dr. Hopstock, superintendent of Berrien RISA, Ryan Boskool, my counterpart at the Greater Niles Chamber. We've also got an advisory team that consists of Dan Applegate, superintendent of Niles Public Schools, Rick Seeger, superintendent of Waterville Public Schools, because we want their important perspective. And then, of course, all of the great staff support we receive from folks like Al Pashalka, Chris Machiniak, Dr. Ken Flowers, and Barbara Craig, who is in the back there and is essentially operating as our shared employee for this. She has flyers, I see. That was well done, Barbara. Not coordinated, thank you. Doing a great job, and I know that, you know, we've talked to dozens and dozens and dozens of employers at this point, and not a single one has said that they are not interested in this, because it is a way to get high-quality talent for a low cost, to be able to customize the training to that specific workplace, which will increase positive outcomes for both that workplace and the professional that's going there. And the line's out the door, basically, for folks who want to participate in this. So I appreciate the partnerships that have been able to be formed. I think there are many ways that this can be applied in our community over the next few months and years, and I'd welcome any questions that you may have about this. Let me off the hook. Here's one.
Thank you. More of a comment, just to provide clarity that our educational programs that have always been at the former Niles campus are still the same. The robust early college dual enrollment programs are still offered at that same campus, so there is no disruption to programming that was there previously when it was a Lake Michigan College South County campus. So it's another, you know, example of we can still do what we need to do to serve our community and the students that need access to that higher education location, but then we can do so much more with this collaborative. So just wanted to make sure people understood that we did not remove ourselves from South County in terms of offering higher ed to the high school students and also for those students that are looking at the traditional age. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, you do.
Just real quick comment and question. And it's funny because Juan mentioned a businessman in Bridgman B&L met with them this week, and this is definitely something that's needed for our high-tech companies in the county. How do we sign them up? Barbara, raise your hand.
If you didn't hear that, scan the QR code right now. You can go right to it and start to get your employees engaged right away. And I would add, Arthur, if I could, make sure that you spread the word of what you've heard today. And I know that there's some talk right now at the collaborative also. Arthur, maybe you want to touch base on this. SLC has offered to participate and support in helping to establish greater understanding amongst the families in our school districts. RISA in particular is leading that particular charge. I don't know if you wanted to talk a little bit about that engagement.
Yeah, so back to, you know, utilizing some existing resources more effectively. I know that there have been some studies that have been done on our labor supply chain in the past, just in the past couple of years, and I think a lot of that data is still very relevant. I also know that through the Berrien CTE work that the Berrien RISA is doing to get the word out about, you know, what's available, I think that there are opportunities through that educational effort to be able to let parents know, and that is a key piece of this, to let parents know that, you know, when I graduated high school, it was about going to college. And for a lot of individuals, that path hasn't worked. It's had them mired in debt, makes them unable to afford a home and have a high quality life. And now you can go to Lake Michigan College for free, get the training you need to be more successful in the workplace, graduate with no debt, a high-paying job, higher quality of life, and part of the challenge and why that hasn't happened at scale yet, I think, is an educational piece. So credit to Berrien RISA for the work they're doing to do that outreach to the parents of kids who are currently going to school.
As a board member at Berrien RISA, thank you for this collaborative. I think it is critical to our future here in Berrien County. One interesting point, and I should let Chris give the details of this, Chris Machiniak, who is the assistant superintendent of Berrien RISA. When I learned more about this particular conversation, 10 students graduate. See if I got these numbers right, if I got them right. 10 students graduate, 4 go on to some sort of higher education or additional education. Now, let that sink in for just a moment. 10 students graduate in Berrien County, 4 go on to something else. What happens to the other 6? And at least one of those individuals never completes either the 2-year degree, the certification, or a 4-year degree, which essentially means 7 of 10 are not continuing on in some way, shape, or form, and probably are finding work elsewhere than Berrien County. What can we do better? And that's what this collaborative is all about. Any last questions? Yes.
I was just wondering your ongoing needs analysis of the county and your metrics, measurements of success in the future.
So one of the things that we look at, which is a widely available data set, are in-demand jobs, right? Those lists are published regularly, it's empirical, and in-demand jobs are really what we need to focus on, because a lot of those in-demand jobs are, by virtue, jobs of the future. And so if we want to create a workforce and a community that's sustainable, we need to be preparing our young people locally for the jobs that will be here over the next 10, 15, 20 years. And in Michigan, a lot of those jobs are going to have to be in the what we call the knowledge economy, in order for us to be able to increase wages, increase prosperity, increase quality of life for everybody. So helping educate, again, those kids on pursuing these pathways to these knowledge economy jobs, instead of majoring in underwater basket weaving or some of the things that we've seen, in the last 10 to 15 years. That's really what is going to be a transformational change, I think, for this community, and those data sets are out there. They should be handed out in classrooms throughout the county on a daily basis during school, so that kids know where the return on their education, where that return on investment will be.
Big hand for Arthur, please. And on that note, please welcome Arthur Havlicek.
But wait, there's more. So not only are we we're hyper-focused on the high school age kids, because they're the talent of the future. We're also hyper-focused on the leaders of the future, and it's another great partnership between the Southwest Michigan Regional Chamber of Commerce and Lake Michigan College. So a little bit of a refresh. The Strategic Leadership Council fortuitously brought the Leadership Accelerator program back a number of years ago. It successfully transitioned the program to Lake Michigan College in 2022, and then our organization joined the college as sort of a co-lead, co-partner to be able to run the program where Lake Michigan College would continue to handle the curriculum, because that's what they do best, and we would work to engage businesses and alumni, because engagement in those two areas are some of the things that we do best. And so in 2023, I just want to recognize some of the names on this list, some of the graduates. There were about 24 that graduated last July. A couple of them are in the room. I know Steven's in the room, Brian's in the room. If you were in the 2023 class, could you just raise your hand for me real quick? Okay, there's a whole bunch. Thank you. Round of applause. Now, these folks take it upon themselves to go through this 7-month curriculum, and it can be pretty grueling. They're taking time out of their day, time out of their workplace. They're learning things about topics like strength-based leadership, crucial conversations, community awareness, politics and leadership, the importance of inclusion, and more. So they're coming out of this far more robust, I think, as leaders, and far more capable of leading in our community, which everything we've talked about today, whether it is housing or the harbor or the talent supply chain, we need leaders who are going to be equipped with the skill set and the abilities to go out and solve these complex problems, because if it were easy, it'd be done. So in 2024, that was our first opportunity as the chamber to really be involved in the process of recruiting folks to the class. We signed on about 30 new, there's about 30 new leaders who are currently going through the session. They began in January, so they're a little past halfway. And one thing I want to highlight is that, you know, in the first full year of our engagement, we've seen engagement and interest in this rise drastically. So we had so many applicants this year, a record number, that we had enough to almost run a second full cohort within the same year. That makes this one of the most competitive cohorts to date, I believe, just due to the interest. And you know, while I say it was the first year of our engagement, the spotlight I really want to put on is on Dr. Ken Flowers and Pam McVeigh, because they work very hard to create quality curriculum for these individuals to go through. And if the curriculum isn't quality, then it's going to be very difficult for us to go pound the pavement and sell the program. So that word of mouth, as fellows who've graduated are talking to each other and encouraging their colleagues to go through it, that's everything. That makes our job a lot easier. Credit to the college. Once again, it's what they do best. We're glad to lean in on this, and there is such demand in this leadership space that we are sketching out, and that's putting it mildly, but additional leadership offerings to be able to put in front of this community and meet folks where they are in their leadership journey. And I'm going to be very excited to be rolling a lot of that out over the next few months and even years. So I will entertain any questions on Leadership Accelerator.
So this isn't so much as a question, but more of a comment. As an alumni of the Leadership Accelerator program, I don't know where Rob is at, but I use this very often. Rob Cleveland came in and taught a course on strategic planning, and that's not real exciting in a lot of different ways. And I still talk about it because it's probably one of the most engaging courses of the curriculum that we had for the cohort I was in. So there's a lot that I feel, you know, you get out of this from a leadership standpoint, but also in getting to know those other skill sets that you need to have to be able to develop into a leader.
You know, before there's another question, if there is another question, one of the things I have enjoyed the most in the 2 years we've been involved in this has been actually in the very first session that's hosted, listening to the reasons why folks take time out of their day and their busy schedules to be able to go through this 7-month program. And I just want to read a couple of them because I diligently write them down. I think they're just kernels of absolute gold. One individual said, and then this is between this year and last year, they'd like to learn how to interact with their board and refine their leadership skills. One said, a deeper understanding of myself and personal leadership style because I want to drive change in my community. One said, I was passed up for a promotion because I didn't have enough, quote, leadership experience and was hoping that this would make me a more well-rounded candidate for future opportunities. Another said, I co-founded an emerging nonprofit that I do not want to fail, and I'm hoping the skills I learn in Leadership Accelerator will help us succeed. And I won't mention who that is, but we'll just say their nonprofit is succeeding. It's doing very well. To develop my personal brand, because it's usually what people notice first, networking and professional development, increase capacity to help the individuals I currently serve. The list goes on and on. Those are stellar reasons, and every one of these individuals throughout the entirety of this program have made our community a better place, so it's very important work.
All right. Peter's got a question.
Thank you. Just want to say that being one of the original ringleaders to resurrect this back in 2016, I'm really proud of the work that everybody's done to keep this alive and to focus on leadership. You guys are doing a great job at the chamber. I really am going to be looking forward to what you do with the alumni as well. That said, the chamber's been on fire, and it's really good to see.
In a good way, right?
We appreciate that. I personally use the chamber for our business, and also with Hager and the CEO Council. You're doing a great job. What else you got up your sleeve?
Well, love the question. Is there time? Okay. So, 30 seconds. We're doing really well. I wouldn't happen without all of you. So go backward, then I'll go forward. Over the last year, we've welcomed 68 new member investors to the organization, which is a record because we don't do any marketing to be able to pursue those members. They join us organically. And so I think that speaks to a lot of the work that we've done over the last several years. But some of you may have heard me say this. If you haven't, sear it into your minds. I view membership totals in the chamber world as something of a vanity metric, right? A vanity metric. You'll hear chambers kind of compare themselves based on their membership. The metric I most like to use is engagement, because I could have 1,000 members, but if none of them show up to any of the things we do or engage in any of the things we do, I might as well not have any, right? And in terms of engagement, we've seen, again, record levels of engagement. So we've held, over the last year, about 60 events, 60 plus. We've hosted over 3,000 individuals, business leaders, community leaders, over the course collectively between all of those events. We've come out with new programming. We've breathed life with the help of one of Peter's employees, actually, Trevor, into our Young Professionals programming, which is another thing very in line with Leadership Accelerator and the Berrien Talent Collaborative. We're the first chamber in the state now to run essentially a local chamber of commerce as essentially a division of our organization. That's the Bridgman Area Chamber and Growth Alliance. So that organization now functions as a subsidiary of ours. We've seen a ton of success in that space. Everything from housing, as Juan mentioned, to an award-winning courtyard, which I cannot believe you didn't mention in your speech earlier, so I'll do it. We managed to figure out a beach bus to circulate individuals during the peak summer season. We're working on trying to bring that back. Interestingly, more residents, according to the data, utilize that beach bus. Brought in the Casey's, which is crushing it down there. And these are all things in Bridgman. But the one thing I'm most proud of is we were able to structure a partnership, and thanks to some of this momentum, to be able to actually hire Nancy Kiernan, who's sitting right there in the back as a full-time director of the CGA, to focus on some of the businesses, some of the growth, some attraction, expansion, retention, and some nuclear diversification, which is something you'll hear me focusing on. That's one of the things that we've got up our sleeve. What else? Head Start. We're deep in with Head Start. There's going to be some really exciting news. I'll tease that one out. August 9th. Everybody mark your calendars for August 9th. Do it right now. Heads down. Do it right now. There's going to be an exciting announcement that I think is going to take a massive chunk out of our child care access barriers. And so I would love to see everybody in this room at that. We've been engaged in that for going on almost 2 years now. Very proud of that work. How much more time do I have? I can keep rolling.
Well done.
We also announced at our breakfast that we have created 2 additional nonprofits as a way to just kind of expand the capacity that we have as an organization to serve our members and our community more effectively. The first one is what's called the Southwest Michigan Regional Chamber Foundation, which I won't go into too much depth, but it'll focus on 3 things: leadership development, business development, and community development. That programming is being fleshed out right now, and it'll be rolled out over the coming weeks, months, and years. It's extensive. And then the other one is